One of the things that I've always recommended using on the channel are Kontrol Freeks. These add some extra height to your stick when you're trying to get better MLB the Show. Having the extra precise movement of your left stick is a very good thing to have. But today we're gonna be talking about another product that Kontrol Freek has called Precision Rings. These are foam rings that you put on the outside of your sticks. They add more resistance to your movement. In theory, this may be something that helps the MLB the Show. What we're gonna do today is we're gonna go through, use each of these precision rings, see how they actually are, break down what their purpose is for MLB the Show, go through all the benefits and downsides of using them, and overall answer the question, are these worth using and buying for your set if you're an MLB the Show player? Let's get into it. So yes, these are the precision rings. I know these are things that some people have tried in other games like shooters and all that, and they are very interesting. They go around your stick. This is what the ring looks like, and you just stretch it around your stick, put it below, and basically it adds more tension and force to your stick movements. You have to move the stick harder to get the same movements done. And in a game like Call of Duty or Fortnite or any shooter type game where you would do this, you also have a sensitivity thing you could adjust. You could raise your sensitivity higher if it feels like you don't move much. But in MLB the Show, this is definitely more of a question because there is no sensitivity. There is one specific spot for your stick for that individual movement. There's no sensitivity to adjust. It's one of those things where it may not work as well as people think. To be fair, as of a couple months ago, I think it was now, they adjusted the PCI range. There was an issue before where you couldn't really move the PCI onto the corners of the zone. So their solution to it was expanding it so you can move it to those corners. But overall, it expanded the PCI range. So now you move the PCI, it takes up more space in the strike zone. But also the downside of it is that it kind of increased your sensitivity. It was more difficult to get precise stick placement because of that range expansion, because there's no sensitivity to adjust, especially on Hall of Fame and Legend difficulty. People had been proposing to try these sticks because it might counter what that expansion of PCI did. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna break it down. We're gonna try all of them for myself, and I'm gonna give my honest thoughts. I've tested them a bit. I've even tried to do some hacks of them to try to make them more beneficial for MLB the Show. We're gonna go through what I think their real purpose is for MLB the Show, because they are definitely not for everyone. So I am in custom practice here. I'm gonna go through all of the different difficulties because these are not something that are a necessity for every single player out there. We'll start on AllStar difficulty and work our way up. I have a handy dandy controller cam set up too. So as you see, I have no stick on the left stick for right now, but I have my Kontrol Freek on my pitching stick. I think this is mostly something that you should use for hitting. You don't want to use it for pitching. As you will see when I talk about them individually, they kind of restrict your movement a bit. You can't move the stick out to the very edge like this with ease. You kind of have to use a lot of force to do that. So there are some downsides to using these, and with pitching, especially with pinpoint, definitely not the way to go. But right now I have nothing on the stick. As you see, we're just gonna go in. This is what All-Star difficulty looks like. As you see, I can move the stick everywhere. One of the things is, especially with the PCI update, you can move the stick very high, very low below the zone. This is not much of a big deal on the All-Star, but as you'll see, we'll scale up the difficulty here. This is what Hall of Fame looks like, and you see you can move a little closer to the corner, but there's just so much range to move with the stick. There's a lot of coverage over the plate, and it's very difficult to aim very precisely in the zone because of this higher sensitivity. You have to move the stick very slightly, very finitely to keep the PCI in the zone. And this is just Hall of Fame difficulty. Once we jump up to Legend difficulty here, the precise movements definitely become very difficult as well. You see, there's so much coverage of the zone. It's very difficult to get the precise movements. It's very easy to jam the stick high, below, and outside of the zone like this, because a lot of people do intrinsically jam their PCIs. It's easy to miss some hittable pitches. See, I just did it right there. I jammed it inside when it was just a little bit inside on the zone. So what I do is I use Kontrol Freeks like these, put them on top. So what it does, as you may see from here, it adds more height to the stick, so you can move it a little bit more precisely since the stick is a little taller. So you can see my in-zone movements are probably a little bit easier with this, but still, if you jam the PCI, you jam it everywhere, you're gonna still have the issue of having issues expanding beyond the zone or just being precise with it. For me, I usually do good enough with just this. I don't usually need something else, I don't think. You know, I'm someone that makes World Series each year. I play on Legend, I can hit on Legend too. At least the PCIs aren't usually my issue on there. But as you see, you know, hitting is not the easiest in the current state, especially on Legend here, because of the current PCI update. So for the sake of it, I'm gonna take off the Kontrol Freek and we're gonna start with the hardest and work our way down. So this is the black ring, as you see. This is the black ring I'm gonna put on the controller. It is the hardest sensitivity, so it adds the most resistance. And as you see, you might not be able to say the best because it's black. I can't move the stick as far. You don't hear me clacking the controller. It adds more force and resistance. And you'll see in here, I'm moving the stick all the way around here, and it's very difficult to get it all the way outside. If I want to get the PCI up to the corner, I gotta press really hard. Like, I'm putting in so much effort to do this. With the hard one you see here, you could see some potential downsides. Your motion is restricted. It's very difficult to move to the corners, which is definitely a downside. You want to be able to get to these pitches still, but it's so much force to be able to do that. It's going to be a very much big hassle to try to hit. Now bump it down to Hall of Fame. You still see I can't get to the corners very easily. Like we said before, there's no sensitivity to adjust in this game. So since you add this tension, yes, you have more precision in the zone, but it's very difficult to reach some of the corners. And even though I think a lot of people may not have the best control of their left stick, the hard feels very much. The black one feels like way too much force than necessary. There's no real purpose to having it. And this is just on Hall of Fame. AllStar would be the same way. It takes too much strength, definitely. And another downside of something like this, if you can't move the stick easily to the corners, when you're in the field, you can't move your fielders to the ball easily. When you field like a ball, they can't sprint. You see, it's not easy to move the stick to that very outside part. So your fielders may jog and be very lackadaisical to the ball because you can't get the stick outside enough. So this is a potential downside of using these in MLB the Show as well, since you use the left stick to move your fielders. So since this is the most hard, let's try to go a little softer. Let's go to the medium ones, the purple one. We'll put that on the stick and see if it improves anything. Obviously, you'll still likely have the slight issue of not being able to get your fielders to the ball, and it is going to be difficult to reach the corners, but you see it's a little bit better. My range is a little better here. With this one, I can move to this part of the plate a little easier. But again, the corners are very difficult to reach. It's not easy to reach the corners. That could be a good thing if you're someone who jams your PCI a lot. You won't be reaching too high above the zone. You can see there's a lot more precision. You have a lot more control in the middle of the zone. But again, the downside of it is it's kind of difficult to get to the corners. So even though the purple is an improvement, you still need a lot of strength just to reach the corners. Look at how much strength I'm using just to get to the top left corner of the zone, which I think is, again, a downside. It's difficult to be able to reach the corners, and personally, I like having the ability to reach the individual corners. Even though you get that in-zone precision, I need to be able to reach the corners of the zone with the PCI and not have to press all of my force down just to do that. But you see, the purples are definitely an improvement. It's definitely better, but I still don't think it's enough. So I had used those earlier in the week, and I was going to call the testing there, and I forgot they had the green ones. So I ordered the green ones, got them today, and going to give my thoughts on these ones today, because the green ones are the softest. They are the least resistance added to the stick, so it makes your motions just a little bit more precise. And you see, I can reach a lot further to the zone easier. The range of the PCI is definitely further without much strength. You see, I can do all this. And again, it's difficult to reach the corners. It's like very, very difficult to reach the corners of the zone, which again, I think is a slight downside. You're at the cost of that, you're getting more precise movement in the zone. And if you are someone who jams the PCI, it's not going to hurt you as much. If you jam the PCI and put a good amount of strength on it, you're likely going to be stopped somewhere up here. If you're jamming it above or jamming it inside, you're not going to be able to get the full range of motion easily So in a sense, it's a benefit. You'll be able to be more precise in the zone, and it kind of counteracts that PCI update where it add that sensitivity. Except you can reach the corners, which is some of the benefit. It's just very, very difficult to do so. And I'm not putting up the best swings, but look at the PCI motions to see where I'm moving the PCI. Having the green ring definitely is a benefit with the in zone movement. It's very easy to move the PCI here. You have a lot of control of it in the heart of the zone, which is definitely a big deal. But once you get to the edges, I think it starts to become a little bit more difficult. And if it were me, I don't know if I would recommend using just the normal ones themselves, but I did try some more experimenting. You thought this was done. No, it is not. I actually took the rings and I decided to test cutting them, making them a little thinner. So the reason I did this, because for me personally, I didn't have much issue covering PCIs in the heart of the plate. I wasn't missing much over the heart of the zone. I think a lot of the issue for me would reside in just jamming the PCI. So I theorized that cutting into it, making it a little smaller, would still add that resistance to the corners of the zone, but in the zone, you get the same normal PCI control you would as if you didn't have anything on there. And it probably reduces the overall force of the outside. So I cut all three of them to be a little thinner. Just for comparison, these are the normal rings. You see how much thinner I cut these left ones or these right ones? They are definitely a little thinner. So I just took scissors and I cut around them, not perfect circles, which could be a slight downside. And since we like the green ones the most, we'll put the green one on, give that a test. It's very, very easy for me to move in the zone here. It adds a little bit more tension towards the corners of the zone for me. Makes it a little bit more difficult to get out here in the corner. It just adds a little bit of resistance to the stick, which I think could definitely be a benefit, especially if you're on Xbox, where from my knowledge of the Xbox, the sticks are a lot more loose. They don't have any natural resistance to them. I think it could be a benefit to do something like this, so you have more precision towards the corners of the zone, so you don't just jam the PCIs easily. You get a little bit more precision when aiming towards the corners, and I think this might do the best job in kind of counteracting the PCI update that had occurred a while back. It adds a little bit of tension, adds a little bit of resistance to your movements, but it doesn't get in the way, and this shouldn't be anything that affects your fielders too much either. I think with the foam being a little thinner, it makes jamming the left stick to the corner a little bit easier. I will say, I haven't been using them, and I have been hitting overall just fine. All I use is just the Kontrol Freek on the left stick, and that is usually enough for me. But I think there is still definitely a place for the precision rings. I think if you're someone who is playing MLB the Show for the first time and you find yourself jamming the stick a lot, because when you first get into the game, it's very easy to get into the habit of jamming the stick everywhere. It is something that definitely could help. As I would like to say, they're probably best treated as a training wheel. Like, you know, you get a bicycle and you don't hop on the bike right away. You learn to ride with training wheels on. And then once you get the balance down, then you take off the training wheels and ride your bike. I would treat that with these precision rings in a similar manner. If you're just playing the game for the first time and you're not used to having precise control of the left stick, which if you're someone who plays games like shooters and all that, it's very easy to just jam the stick everywhere, because it's what you do in every other game. And in this game, you can't get away with jamming the stick, especially with the new PCI update. So I would get those green soft rings. I would definitely try them if you're just hopping on the game for the first time. I would especially consider cutting them like I did, making them a little thinner to help you stop jamming on the corners of the zone, kind of like what I just did that swing. But for people who are veterans, you know, it's still worth a try, especially the green ones. I think it could help per person. If you guys know Ochev, I asked him his opinions on this, and he said that they really helped him. The green ones have been helping him hit a lot. He's been using just the green one on the left stick for his hitting, and he said that he's improved a lot hitting wise, and it's helped his discipline, because you have to be more careful on what pitches you swing at. You can't really expand to the edge of the zone outside the zone very easily. So it just adds more resistance to the stick movements. And if you were to ask me, I think just doing the precision ring itself could help you. I think having both the Kontrol Freek and the ring could be a little much. It'll be a lot of effort just to move the PCI everywhere. See, that was a pitch inside, and I couldn't even get inside enough to get that. But it is down to you. You should test it, see what works the best for you. Try to diagnose what your problems are with hitting. Do you jam the PCIs too much? Do you not have issues with jamming the PCI, but you're just not getting accurate PCIs in the zone? Because these rings could definitely help you with the in-zone movement, but the downsides, I think, could outweigh the benefits if you are someone who doesn't struggle with the in-zone movements much. I think adding the resistance to your fielders and all that could be a hassle and a little bit annoying to get used to. But I would recommend giving them a go for yourself if you're really passionate about the game. Just see what happens. It's funny. I actually just put this on and I feel like I'm crushing everything in the zone here. So maybe there is a benefit more than I've realized. Maybe I need to test them a little more than I have and just see how beneficial they are. I'll definitely be giving them a go tonight. That is going to be it for this video. If you guys have tried the precision rings, let me know in the comment section. How have they helped you with MLB the Show? Have they done any benefit or downside? Do you have any advice for other people who have given them a good go? I think if you're someone who's new, that's really where they're going to be the most useful. But if you're someone who's played for a while, I really don't know how useful they're going to be. I only think they would maybe be viable if you're a veteran, if you're playing on Legend a lot. The other difficulties, I think it's not difficult to be precise with your movements, but everyone is different. Everyone has their issues. Some people have really struggled since the new PCI update. So I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this, make sure you hit the thumbs up. That's going to be it for this video. I appreciate you all watching, and I'll see you all again on the next video later this week. Deuces.